Good morning. This is the CBC Morning Report for Wednesday, September 29th. In our top story, the government of Barbados is seriously considering a plan of self-isolation and self-quarantining in order to cope with the alarming rise in COVID cases. Minister of Health and Wellness, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic, notes that COVID care facilities are above 90% capacity, and these initiatives of self-isolation and quarantine will help ease that burden, along with the additional burden on the government's healthcare providers. Minister Bostic made the remarks last night on the CBC TV8 program News Extra.
These two programs are being managed and coordinated by private sector entities. This support obviously from the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital Isolation Manager. So the resources are going to be provided, including a call center, which is also being outsourced. So this is really what is most helpful about this particular initiative, the fact that, and I mean in every sense of the word, it's taken the burden off of the current healthcare system and what it is that we are doing, because we are tapping into private sector resources, doctors, nurses, etc.
In order to facilitate and monitor those who qualify for self-isolation and quarantining, government is looking to roll out electronic monitoring devices. Government consultant for home quarantine, Dr. Adana Grandison, says this measure is to help keep check that protocols are indeed being followed and the luxury of being home isn't being abused.
In addition to hoping that persons will do the right thing, we always need to have the redundancy in place. And we are using technological means in the form of a monitoring bracelet, a GPS bracelet, more so an anklet, which would be essentially installed once you're accepted for home quarantine or home isolation, where we would be able to essentially ensure that you stay home, because that is important. We will also have sporadic checks, and this is not something that is unique to Barbados. Australia, Canada, once you enter any of these programs, you would, without any sort of notification, you could be popped in by a medical practitioner to assess you and to ensure that you're actually staying at home. This is essentially an ankle bracelet. It is waterproof. You're not tied to a particular part of the house. You're free to move around within the confines of your home. But essentially what it does, because it uses GPS technology, is that it allows for geofencing. And this geofencing would ensure that you're staying based upon the setup that we have with the contractor that would be monitoring, is to ensure that persons do not go outside of the confines of, or what we would call the curtilage of their home, to ensure that not only they remain safe, but also the wider community remains safe.
In order to facilitate, the QEH's Accident and Emergency Department has been described as turning into a COVID-19 hotspot just a couple nights ago. The experience was described by Head of Medical Services at the QEH, Dr. Clyde Cave. Also speaking last night on CBC TV8's News Extra, Dr. Cave said Monday's occurrence has exposed how stretched the accident and emergency resources are. And if there isn't a reduction in the patient traffic, changes will have to be made.
People coming to the accident and emergency who are sick, it may be COVID or it may not be. There's a process of testing and waiting results before while we stream you into lower risk or higher risk. Our higher risk area was full. The new accident and emergency extension, which we have had to repurpose to use for our COVID isolation, because that's where it has the highest technology, negative pressure rooms and that, but it's not enough for an unlimited supply of patients. And we had the rooms filled, and we had the corridors filled, and we had 20 people waiting outside to be assessed, many of whom needed to come in. So we then had to spill over to the outside areas that we have been preparing, where under the tents we have oxygen stations. But as you can imagine, this would be just happening, and what was our limiting factor was our stretched staff. because that staff has been moved to isolation positions and to the other wards and all over. And all of a sudden, we're seeing now another hotspot, the accident and emergency, suddenly requiring extra resources. And where do we get them from, especially in short notice? So last night, things developed suddenly. We have come close in previous nights, but we never reach there. And the hope is that tomorrow we might be a bit better prepared, but if these numbers keep climbing, there are going to be changes that affect us all.
Next on CBC Morning Report, updates on the COVID-19 pandemic. The Barbados Heart and Stroke Foundation says COVID-19 has negatively impacted those with heart problems by creating additional anxiety as well as fear, which has led to strokes and heart attacks. Consultant cardiologist with the QEH and also with the Heart and Stroke Foundation, Dr. Don Scanterbury, tells Morning Report they've been seeing increased cases of heart conditions.
We have seen over the last few years a steady increase in heart attacks. Over the initial period of the pandemic in March, April, May, when there was a huge amount of fear about traveling, about going outside of the home, we found that there was a significant increase in fatal heart attacks. And I'm using the word significant from my personal anecdotal experience in terms of what our statistics or our national statistics would say. It's a little bit difficult for me to say, but all of the cardiologists were finding that when patients were presenting, it seemed to be a lot later on in the course of their disease because they were scared to come into hospital. And then when they came in, things were a little bit further gone than they should have been, and their management was a little bit more difficult. So they did a lot poorer than they should have. As time progressed, though, and the country opened back up, etc., those initial presentations kind of stabilized to what we've been accustomed to. Things are still a little bit slower than they should be, but at least we are not seeing those extremes of presentation.
The doctor explained some of the fear factors heart disease patients have is as far as the doctor explained some of the fear factors which heart disease patients have as a result of COVID.
People are fearful of going into the hospital because they're going to get COVID from the hospital, or there is this. I've heard on multiple occasions, well, there's a curfew, or I'm not supposed to be out on the road, so we just wait until morning to go to the doctor, etc. Where that should have been a patient who, as soon as they had their chest pain, or as soon as they had that significant shortness of breath, they should have gone to the hospital and had their management in a timely manner. There are some things that are very time sensitive, things like heart attacks, things like strokes. When you have your initial onset of symptoms, you need to seek medical attention immediately. And in a situation where people are concerned that if they go on the road and they're going to get stopped by the police because there's a curfew and they shouldn't be outside, or they're going to go down to accident and emergency and it's so crowded down there and they're going to catch COVID from the person near to them. There's this huge reluctance to seek medical attention, especially if you have to go to the hospital.
Okay.
So it's more in terms of reluctance. And then another unfortunate consequence of COVID is that some of the urgent care centers shut down overnight, or they curtailed their hours. So really and truly the only place to go to was the accident emergency department for some of these conditions. And the load on the emergency department has significantly increased. So waiting times are long. You're going to have waiting times if you have an emergency department. Anywhere in the world, you're going to have that. But COVID has exacerbated that.
A 63-year-old Barbadian man died from COVID-19 on Monday while in the primary isolation section at the Harrison's Point Isolation Facility. He was a patient at the institution for 11 days and was unvaccinated. The death brings to 69 the number of lives lost to the viral illness. Meanwhile, a total of 217 new COVID-19 cases have been reported by the Best dos Santos Public Health Laboratory. There are now 1,093 patients in isolation. Under the national vaccination program for COVID-19, the number of people who have received their second dose has moved to 103,143. This figure represents some 38.1% of the population who are now fully vaccinated against the virus. And today, there will be several vaccination sites open and available. 2 centers will be operating at different times. The Eunice Gibson Polyclinic at Warrens from 8:30 until 6:30 and Building Number 2 at the Harbor Industrial Park from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Those operating from 9:30 through to 2:30 are the Masonic Center in Salter St. George, the SDA Church in Mile and a Quarter St. Peter, Sharon Moravian Church Hall in Sharon St. Thomas, and there will be pop-up clinics at the Commermere School from 10 until 5, Baywoods Resource Center in St. James from 1 until 5, and the Wayne Daniel Pavilion in Burton St. Philip from 1 until 7. The mortality rate for Belizeans who have been fully vaccinated is on the rise. Deputy Regional Manager in the Central Health Region, Dr. Melissa Diaz Musa, says it is, however, not as fast as it is for people who are unvaccinated.
When you look at the data with regards to persons who have died as a direct result of COVID-19, we look from April to currently, and we would see that there is a continuous increase. So in April and May, there were 2 or 3 deaths. In June, 4. July, it went up to 8. That's when we started to see more and more spread. In August, we were up to 24 deaths, and of that, 21 were unvaccinated, 1 with a first dose, and 2 fully vaccinated. And in September so far, we're at September 24th, we have had 37 deaths so far, 26 of whom were unvaccinated, 4 with 1 dose only, and 8 persons fully vaccinated. So looking at the total of the 10 persons who have died who are fully vaccinated, over the total amount of deaths from April to now, when we said, okay, we actually got through the second wave that we were in, it's about 12%. We're averaging around 12.1% for the deaths. But for these 8 persons, the age factor is there, that everybody, I think out of the 10, 8 were over 60 and 2 were over 55. So you're looking at age as a significant factor. And there are many things that actually may contribute to morbidity and mortality. So for how unwell you feel, how your immune system reacts, and what causes somebody to die from COVID-19. So of course, the COVID-19 vaccine, we do know that that significantly helps to reduce hospitalization and death. But also you've got to look at factors like age, comorbidities, whether persons are well controlled with diabetes or high blood pressure. Many of the persons who have died had cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, diabetes, obesity, hypertension, asthma. So these are some of the comorbidities that persons who have died also have.
Russia has recorded its highest single-day coronavirus death toll. It comes during a surge of infections fueled by the highly infectious Delta variant and a stuttering mass vaccination drive.
852 people died from COVID-19 in the last 24-hour reporting period, and more than 21,000 new infections were confirmed. Daily cases started climbing earlier this month after millions of Russian students went back to school and university. The Moscow authorities say they'll tighten controls around mask wearing to try to stop a 4th wave. 31% of the population has been vaccinated so far.
Japan is set to lift the coronavirus state of emergency this week for the first time in more than 6 months in a bid to reactivate its economy as infections slow.
Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga says restrictions in 27 out of the country's 47 prefectures would end on Thursday. That decision comes a day before the ruling Liberal Democratic Party selects a new leader to succeed him, who announced his intent to resign earlier this month.
And it's time for a preview of what's coming up on Morning Barbados. And for that, we say good morning to you, Pearson Boone.
Good morning to you, Wendy Burke. Good morning, everyone, as well. Coming up at 6:30 when we start Morning Barbados, you would have just carried, Wendy, in the news a story from Dr. Dawn's Canterbury. Yes, it's World Heart Day today. We'll continue that conversation with the Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Heart and Stroke Foundation as we look at what are they doing to raise awareness about the health risks for heart disease. And there's going to be a public lecture. We'll talk a little bit about that. One of the legacies of the 2007 Cricket World Cup is Sport for Life. And so one of the people who runs that program and one of those who's benefited from that program will join us on Morning Barbados to talk about it as they get ready to recruit a new cohort. And we would have shared with you over the week's 12 keys to a strong finish. Now we see the finish line in sight. Just how are we going to craft a game changer? That is part of what we will be discussing this morning with Bishop Marlon Husband. So don't miss it when you join me here on Morning Barbados. It's back to you, Wendy.
Well, thank you, Pearson, and we will see you at the bottom of the hour. We'll take another break and return with more news. The Royal Barbados Police Force will become the Barbados Police Service when the country transitions to a republic. This was revealed by Attorney General Dale Marshall as the lower house debated the Constitution Amendment Bill 2021 yesterday. Mr. Marshall explained the decision to replace the word force with service.
The police force as it is now and as we want it to be in the future has to be more than the notion of brute strength, a force pushing against people and pushing against objects. Because policing has long ago stopped being centered on brawn and force. And therefore, as we build out a police force dealing with IT and cybercrime and money laundering, a whole set of things which have nothing to do with your ability to kick and cuff and defend yourself, we recognize that the concept of a police service is more in keeping with the modern image of our police officers.
In Jamaica, controversial political activist Karen Cross has been expelled from the People's National Party with immediate effect. The expulsion comes following breaches to the party's constitution.
On Monday, a meeting hosted by the Executive Committee of the People's National Party, PNP, ended with a decision to ban political activist Karen Cross from the party. Ms. Cross, who was a long-standing member of the PNP, is the chairman of the New Malines Group in St. Andrew. Acting chairman of the PNP, Horace Daly, says the committee's decision is based on a report from the disciplinary committee and in accordance with the party's constitution. He adds that the disciplinary committee cited more than 30 breaches involving Ms. Cross.
Very, very lengthy report. They looked at 31 breaches that Comrade Cross carried out against the party and against comrades in the party as anti-party activities. On the basis of that, they made a recommendation. The recommendation was that Comrade Cross be suspended from the party for 12 to 24 months, to hold no office in the party and to attend no structured meetings of the party. The executive accepted the report but rejected the recommendations and voted majority for the expulsion of Comrade Cross.
Ms. Cross has had many run-ins with the PNP, the latest being a protest outside the PNP's headquarters last Thursday. Mr. Daly says the party had no choice but to take strong action against her.
What the party is saying at this time, and as the acting chairman of the party, I have to say this to every single member of the party cannot continue as it was. You can't get up and say as you wish, post whatever you please, cuss who you want to cuss. There are procedures in the party for you to air your grouses.
An independent investigation commissioned by the World Health Organization has identified more than 80 alleged cases of sexual abuse during the Global Health Agency's response to an Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. This includes allegations implicating 20 staff members. The 35-page report released yesterday exposed the most wide-scale sexual wrongdoing linked to a United Nations institution in years, committed by personnel hired locally as well as members of international teams in the country from 2018 to 2020.
Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus apologized to the victims and said the report by an independent panel made for harrowing reading. It found there were at least 80 cases of sexual abuse by aid workers during the response to an Ebola outbreak from 2018 to just last year. Separate investigations into sexual abuse allegations have also been launched by two other UN bodies, UNICEF and the International Organization for Migration.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what was done to you by people who were employed by WHO to serve and protect you. I'm sorry for the ongoing suffering that these events must cause. I'm sorry that you have had to relieve them in talking to the Commission about your experiences.
As many Americans were dying of COVID-19 last year, it turns out they were also being murdered at a historic rate. As CNN's Brian Todd reports, it was the biggest one-year jump on record for murders in the U.S.
New crime stats are in, and they're even worse than many feared. Last year, the number of homicides in the United States jumped by nearly 30%, according to a new FBI report. Almost 5,000 more murders than the year before.
That's a dramatic and startling increase.
It's the biggest jump in a single year ever recorded since tracking began in the 1960s. The number spiked in the summer of 2020, the FBI report says, and then remained elevated for the rest of the year. Why?
There was a pandemic, and then we had increased street protests in connection with, as a reaction to the death of George Floyd at the hand of a Minneapolis police officer, and similar kinds of cases.
Another possible factor, experts say, after incidents of police brutality like the George Floyd murder, more police officers may have retired or become reluctant to get involved in altercations, and the public less likely to trust them. Another reason, more gun violence. Last year, when gun sales skyrocketed, the FBI says 77% of the reported murders were committed with a gun. That's up 3 points from 2019 and up 10% from a decade ago.
It's probably a greater availability of guns. Some commentators have suggested that people use their stimulus check to purchase a gun. We may have also had an increase in situations in which people resort to guns to solve their differences. This would include domestic violence.
As for 2021, Philadelphia saw 25 shootings.
This is more violence than I've ever seen.
In sports, Windies spinner Sunil Narayan struck 21 off 10 balls as the Kolkata Knight Riders boosted their Indian Premier League playoff hopes with a 3-wicket win over Delhi Capitals in Sharjah yesterday. The Capitals made 127 for 9 from their 20 overs, with player of the match Narayan taking 2 for 18. In reply, Kolkata were in trouble at 96 for 5 before Narayan hit 21 runs off the 16th over as KKR got home at 130 for 7 off 18.2 overs. Here are the highlights. They're fourth in the points table on 10, and Delhi remains second on 16. Time now for a look at our weather. Well, it seems as if our weather picture isn't quite what it's supposed to be. So it's time now for a wrap. That's been the morning report for today, September 28th. Join us again at 12 noon for the Newsday. It's now time for Pearson and Morning Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Well, let me join the refrain in saying morning to you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's edition of Morning Barbados for Wednesday, September the 29th, 2021. I am Pearson Bowen, welcoming those of you in Barbados watching us on your TV screens and those of you across the globe watching us on our YouTube channel and our Facebook streams as well. As always, wonderful having you company today, Wednesday. Now, what do you know about preterm labor? Pause for a moment. I know, let that sink in. Well, our obstetrician will join us to talk about what it is, how you diagnose it, and what are some of the treatment options available for anyone who is experiencing or has experienced or will experience preterm labor. And education for all of us this morning. We'll also be meeting a young entrepreneur who has started her own business in cosmetics and beauty care items as well. So just a little bit about what to expect when you join us and stay with us right here on Morning Barbados. But let's get started now with Sport for Life, which is a legacy program coming out of the 2007 Cricket World Cup. It is a registered non-profit organization. To talk to us a little bit more about it and what it provides is Kathy Harper Hall, who is the program director of Sport for Life Barbados Inc., and Javonta Clark, who is a graduate of the Sport for Life program. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning, Pearson.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's start with you, Ms. Harper Hall. What is Sport for Life, and what is it that you do, and what is it that it offers?
Okay. Sport for Life, first of all, Sport for Life is a legacy program of World Cup 2007. And it was more or less the brainchild of the late Stephen Arlene, who was chairman at that time of the LOC. The thought behind it was that having spent so much money on refurbishing Kensington Oval, there should be some legacy left. And so the idea was that they would formulate this program to allow young people who are involved and who are interested in the sport of cricket to benefit from the program. Now, the program is not just a cricket program, although it is cricket-based. It offers remedial maths and English. First of all, it caters to children who have interest in the sport of cricket, but they are having difficulties with their schoolwork and in some cases having behavioral challenges. And so we recruit them from the schools through their guidance counselors and through the PE departments of the schools. We offer remedial maths and English. We offer life skills. We offer information technology, where we teach the children to use the computers as educational tools and not just to download songs or play games. We also allow them to have recreational activities like drama. They do martial arts. We allow them to do crafts. They bring items and they make things. We had a session with them making kites, and it's amazing the type of kites that those children made. So it's a kind of a program that offers them to have fun while learning, and it really helps them with their schoolwork.
And so it sounds very all-encompassing, where you're using sport as a leverage to changing lives and making better citizens of those who pass through your program. So could you give us, since 2008, an idea as to the number of people who would have benefited from this program, Sport for Life?
I think we have gone way over 700 children by now, because we started off taking 50 children each year, and then we reduced it to 45 and then down to 30. But then when we first started, we started with a group of children from the National Sports Council Summer Camp. and that was quite a lot of young cricketers. So I think we're over 700 children who have now benefited from the program. Normally it runs from September in one year to June the following year. But of course, this year with COVID, we had to wait on the schools to find out what schools are doing. And so that is why we are so now in the process of recruiting.
And so you, Javonta Clark, you are one of the graduates of the Sport for Life. Talk to me a little bit about the experience you've had going through the program.
Yes, please. In Sports for Life, I was brought to Sports for Life by my guidance counselor, who thought the program could have helped me, and I believe I would have given it a shot because cricket was involved and cricket was a passion of mine, which still is. And Sports for Life helped me in other areas that I had no intentions really focusing on at that point in time. So honestly, it helped me.
Give me a sense of what those things that you did not want to focus on and how Sport for Life changed you.
Back then I was more of a fun-loving person, so my academics was not really my focus. But Sports for Life helped me to see, well, that would be more important than just cricket all the time. So I picked up in maths and English at school. So Sports for Life did help me a lot at school and in my life skills too.
And that's really good to hear. Were you able then, having had that experience, to go back into your community, to go back into your school and tell other boys and girls your age about the benefits of Sport for Life?
Yes, please. I actually was able to talk to a lot of my friends about it, and some of them were enthusiastic about it too, wanted to join, but some of them was a bit skeptical. But I just believe that we need to look into it a little bit more, and they will be quite interested in the program.
I'm glad that you said it. Look into it a little bit more, and then they'll be glad to be in the program. Now, oftentimes when we hear of these programs, Javonta, we think it's so structured. It feels like school all over again. You're going to take up all of my time. Did you feel that way when you were invited by your guidance counselor to be a part of it? Did you feel as though you were being restricted in any way?
Not at all. They were quite lenient in many ways, so I didn't feel pressured at all by the setting. I didn't feel pressured at all.
Ms. Harper Hall, this must feel so warm to your heart to hear these glowing comments about the work of Sport for Life. Let's talk a little bit about this new cohort you're seeking to recruit, because we really want to engage as many of our young people to see the benefit of sport and the discipline that sport brings to their lives. When are you recruiting again, and how many are you looking for?
Well, we are looking for 35 young people between the ages of 12 and 15, boys and girls, preferably with an interest in cricket, but not necessarily, it's not necessarily have to. What we are asking, though, is that you have an interest in some form of sport. Because we really don't want to have children there who say, oh, I can't go outside and I can't run up and down, or I can't do this. So although cricket is a base sport, we want them to have an interest in one sport or the other. And as I said, between the ages of 12 and 15. And we prefer those children who are having challenges with their schoolwork and need that help, especially in maths and English. And then those children who parents or teachers may believe that they are having behavioral challenges, and so because not that we are magicians, but we have tried on a lot of occasions to help children who come to us with what is supposed to be behavioral challenges, only to find out that there are so many things, underlying factors that allow the children to be behaving the way they are behaving. And once we have been able to identify those factors, we've been able to help the children and the parents have come back to us and have said to us, well, I don't know what you've done to my child, but he's a changed person, So although we don't have magic, but we realize that what we have been doing have been helping children, and the children themselves have been coming back. And as a matter of fact, a lot of them do not want to leave. Javonta himself already spent 2 years and he wants to come back. So and a number of them who graduate, after they've graduated, they have been calling, Mom, can we come back? Can we come back? And this is because they have found that something is happening for them. And then we are having the parents who are asking us, oh, well, now that my son is there, can I bring his little sister? Can I bring his little brother? And, you know, so what we do not really take them from primary school, because we would not want to have a 10 or 11-year-old, you know, with a 14 or a 15-year-old.
Right.
Because the age groups are different. But so we start at 12 once they are in the secondary school. So we are appealing to physical education teachers, to guidance counselors, etc. If you have children in your school who we believe will benefit from this program, you're free to register. The Sport for Life email address is simply sflbarbados@gmail.com. SFL for Sport for Life, sflbarbados@gmail.com, or they can call me at 232-7556 to register their children. Registration this year will be different because of COVID. Normally, we would have registered already through the schools, and we would have had the children, but because there was no school, we were not able to do the registration. So we are going to be starting later this year than usual, because normally we would start in September, but we are now recruiting in September. So we are asking the parents, if parents are out there listening and they have children that they believe can benefit from the program, just contact us at 232-7556 or sflbarbados@gmail.com.
Well said, well done. So, but how does it work? Because we're within those restrictions as well. Is it going to be an online program, or is it going to be part online, part in person? How is it going to work?
Okay, we tried both during the pandemic. And when it was not too bad, we split them in half, and we had one set coming to Kensington, because the program is based at Kensington Oval. And so we had one set coming to Kensington Oval and half of them, and the other half working at home. Right. Then when things got a little bit out of hand, we had everybody working online. And the children seemed to have enjoyed the online. At first we thought, having been at school Monday to Friday, they wouldn't want to get up Saturday morning and come into Sport for Life. But they were there before us on Saturday mornings. And the thing is that they seem to have enjoyed the online programs very much, because what we did then, because we have a very big staff, or staff of volunteers, we have almost like 2 staff members to 2 children to 1 staff member. So what we were able to do, we divided them into small groups and put them in breakout rooms online, and they had their discussions in their breakout rooms, and they did their thing in breakout rooms, then they came back. And we had things, for instance, like a talent show, online talent show, and it was amazing the talent that these children displayed online. You know, so we are going to have to start online until things are different with COVID, and then if we have to graduate into half online, half at Kensington, and then fully at Kensington, we will work it as COVID allows.
Yes. Javonta, I'll give you the last opportunity now to be able to talk directly to some young people today and to encourage them to sign up to be a part of this upcoming Sport for Life series.
Well, for me, honestly, I would encourage most young people to join the program, because, well, the program could help in more ways than you really think or you realize at the current moment. I would advise many people to join the program, because Sports for Life is a unique program which is actually about the children, about helping us in the ways that we would need, and is more of a family than extra work. It's more of people that you can actually learn from and experience things than an actual going to school, and those that you might already be experienced already that you don't want to come back to. So I would advise many people to try out.
Javonta, well said. I am immensely proud of you this morning indeed. So parents, we want to encourage you to call these numbers. Call 232-7556 or email sflbarbados@gmail.com for Sport for Life. And you will find that the experience, as Javonta shared, will be one that is going to be life-changing. They're looking at a number of things: life skills, numeracy, literacy, information technology, sports specifics, and most of all, leadership. You'll make a leader out of yourself as well. So do participate by calling now 232-7556 or emailing sflbarbados@gmail.com. Kathy Harper-Hall, Program Director, and Javonta Clark, graduate of the Sport for Life. Thank you, both of you, for coming through and for inspiring us in the ways that you're doing at the moment through Sport for Life, and we hope the legacy continues. Thank you so much.
Thank you too, Pearson. Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Morning Barbados continues right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're 13 minutes now to go to the hour of 7 o'clock. We want to encourage you to always adopt a very healthy lifestyle. Consider what you consume. Consider reducing the dependence on sugary drinks and sugary products as well. We want to encourage you to adopt a healthier lifestyle here at the CBC and with the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados, to whom we turn now, as today is World Heart Day. Joining us this morning to talk a little bit more about that and so much more of what the program offers is Michelle Daniel, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados. Good morning to Michelle.
Good morning, Pearson. So lovely to see you as always.
As always, to see you as well. Today is World Heart Day under the theme Use Heart to Connect. I just love the theme alone. But there are many incidences in Barbados, where as we heard from Dr. Dawn Canterbury in the news leading into today, where we're seeing an increase in the number of people presenting with cardiovascular disease. That must be of great concern to the Heart and Stroke Foundation.
Yes, indeed, Pearson. And one of the things that is of major concern to us is that we understand and we are aware that 80% of premature deaths from heart attacks and heart disease and strokes can be prevented by simple things, such as, assuming a healthy diet, having a proper exercise routine, and actually avoidance of tobacco. So yes, it is of concern, and we are doing our part to connect the dots and ensure that we support the Barbadian and the Barbadian community in this realm to use Heart to Connect and to have the right to healthy living and to healthy foods.
And a lot of us live on this society with lots of non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and the like, and we are predisposed naturally because of those to the potential for heart cardiovascular disease. And so we want to raise that awareness. How is the Heart and Stroke Foundation helping in that effort in raising the awareness of how these non-communicable diseases could impact your heart health?
Thank you, Pearson, for that question. And so it's two-pronged in terms of our childhood obesity prevention program and the work being done by our coalition. And that involves ensuring that persons understand that we need to advocate for the removal of sugary beverages in schools, for nutrition policy. And then even in terms of things like the cardiac support group, where persons and survivors of heart attacks and cardiac disease can provide support to each other. And so those are just two of the elements where we as the Heart and Stroke Foundation are attempting to support our community in terms of making better choices and living healthier lives, because truthfully, everybody has a heart.
That is so true. Well said. Everyone has a heart.
That's our motto. Everybody has a
Yes.
heart.
And I'm going to link the two, the heart health and the childhood obesity, because that's so critical. You know, parents watching today, little ones watching today, you have seen the many stories of how people have been impacted by cardiovascular disease, and some people don't survive it as well. And so if you want to reduce or likelihood of having that problem or eliminate it completely, then we need to look at our diet. And let's talk a little bit then about the childhood obesity program, because we're trying to reduce the dependence on those sugary things and replacing them with more natural juices, more healthy products and alternatives.
Yes, yes, Pearson. So that is a primary consumption in terms of primary focus in terms of helping persons to understand, the children, the parents, the teachers, that we need to be doing things differently. Because as you correctly said, obesity in the later stage, if unchecked, can lead to heart disease and to hypertension and to diabetes. So we encourage persons to actually drink more water. We encourage the government to look at swiftly implementing the school nutrition policy. Policy drives change. Each organization can speak on its own, in its own realm, but when a policy is put in place, it gives teeth to the actual actions that we need to take. And so it clearly sets out what is within scope, what is is outside of scope. It helps the vendors, it helps the canteen operators, it helps the teachers, it helps everybody to understand, how can I do things better? How can I prepare this better? How can I have an environment which is conducive to exercise and to moving and to encouraging children to do things differently for the betterment of their health, so that they can grow into healthy, strong adults with reduced, I can't say without total, but with reduced occurrence of these non-communicable diseases.
And so today we want people to switch up. We want you to be empowered parents. We want you to take charge as well. And while we sometimes talk about policy, we think, oh, that's at governmental level. No. Mommy, daddy, you set the policy in your house as well. So if your policy at the house right at the moment is one that is not in alignment with what we're talking about today, maybe you need to revise that policy. You need to have another one of your little meetings around the table where you say, you know what, we are going to reduce our dependency on sugary products. We are going to cut out those snacks that the children want to crave ever so often, and we are instead going to do this. And because the whole thing is to change a habit, we need to replace the habit. And so we're asking parents today to have your own discussion among yourselves. Look at that, fruit. Consider using fruit, because it all starts with you. And all of this information we're showing is from your website, Michelle.
Yes. www.hsfbarbados.com. And technically speaking, we have a new updated website, and there is a separate arm dealing with all of these aspects in terms of the childhood obesity prevention, and for all the hashtags. And we encourage persons, parents, children, to link to our website and to actually use some of the tags in terms of hashtag protect our children, right to healthy foods, because you as the parents, you as the adults, you have the purchasing power. You can, as you said, Pearson, have the conversation around the table, but ultimately, make the difference, make the changes now for the future. Otherwise, we will have a more serious predicament in the years ahead, compounded by any pandemics or anything else that we might be facing.
That's right. Our children have a right to healthy foods, because they have a right to healthy food, they also have a right to good heart health. And so today, on World Heart Day, I know you're going to be having a public discussion. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, Pearson, yes. So Dr. Richard Ishmael, who is a well-known consultant cardiologist, he will be sharing with us in terms of the development of cardiac services in Barbados and the region. So he'll be going back in time in terms of those persons who had the foresight to actually start those things in Barbados, and how we have grown from strength to strength in terms of the quality of practitioners that we have and how we have also embraced persons in the region. And this lecture is open to persons across the globe. We will have it on several different platforms, on our Zoom platform, YouTube, and Facebook Live. And so we urge you 6 p.m. this evening to come on board and listen and ask questions and learn. Whether you're a young medical student or you are a caregiver, it doesn't matter. This is World Heart Day. We use heart to connect, and technically all of our hearts matter, and we need to know the technical side in terms of what has been done in terms of the practitioners and those persons in the field, but also how that translated to the person on the ground who was able to benefit from those services. So we invite everyone to actually log on at 6 p.m. this evening. And in addition to Dr. Ishmael's wonderful presentation, we will be sharing a bit about the relaunch of our cardiac support group. Support is important. Use heart to connect. So we're connecting persons to help each other get through the journey and to embrace others who may also need that support.
Indeed so. And you know, because the theme is use heart to connect, we want to look at a three-pronged plan: equity, prevention, and community. Equity, looking at technology, access to information. You know, sometimes when we disconnect, and in doing this, we're saying that also triggers the heart, that affects the heart, how we feel. And how we feel is going to create a whole host of problems. But we also want to get into prevention. So being able to look at how we consume, what we do, our exercise regime, our diets, just make those necessary changes so we prevent our dependence on our medical practitioners to step in to help. But most of all, we are a community. Because we are a community, we work together, each one helping one, so that we together can reduce the need for those healthy foods. We increase the need for exercise. We increase the need for us to look at our diets very, 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 very carefully. And so your word to everyone today is, and I like it, the fact that we have to look at our family policy. I really, really like that part, Michelle, that we as a team of people within a household together determine that we will make the change through our own policy. So when you see John walk in the door or James walk in as well, we say, no, that's not allowed in here. Our policy is we're not consuming sugary drinks. We're not eating those bad products that are bad for our health. And see this little one will not be encouraged to be a part of it as well. So we start the policy and we change the behavior.
Yes, exactly. And it all boils down to changing behavior. Step by step, as you said, inside, because we can't only depend on the persons outside. So you have your policy within your home, and then you build on it in terms of whatever is happening externally, in terms of the National School Nutrition Policy, and whatever other steps are made in the local sphere to actually support this change. The right to healthy food. We all have a right to healthy food, but our children in schools, children yet to come on the planet, they need to be born into an environment where healthy foods are provided and are given in terms of their growth and their development and their healthy living.
Right, so we want to make it trend because I know there are a number of hashtags which the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados is using as well. Policy into action, hashtag protect our children, hashtag right to healthy foods, hashtag we deserve better, hashtag people before profit. And all of that is so critical to raise awareness and to make the noise, sound your voice, show your support in very tangible ways, not just by words alone, but by action as well. And all of this, you know, you can see on the different social media platforms for the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados as well. And don't forget that big lecture on this evening. What time does it start?
6 p.m. Pearson, 6 p.m. this evening.
Dr. Ishmael is going to be there to lead us through as we celebrate all of the work thus far, but we educate on the way forward as well. Michelle Daniel, Chief Executive Officer of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados, as always, thank you. And I encourage you always to keep up the work because we're going to use the heart to connect, always. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pearson. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Likewise, likewise. Morning Barbados will continue right after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're a minute and a half after 7 o'clock. Time for us to look at the news. Here is Wendy Burke.
Thank you, Pearson. And continuing with the news now, the government of Barbados is seriously considering a plan of self-isolating and self-quarantining in order to cope with the alarming rise in COVID cases. The Minister of Health and Wellness, Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic, notes that COVID care facilities are above 90% capacity, and these initiatives of self-isolation and quarantining will help to ease that burden, along with the additional burden on the government's healthcare providers. Minister Bostic made the remarks last night on the CBC TV8 program, News Extra.
These two programs are being managed and coordinated by private sector entities. This support obviously from the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital Isolation Manager. So the resources are going to be provided, including a call center, which is also being outsourced. So this is really what is most helpful about this particular initiative, the fact that, and I mean in every sense of the word, it's taken the burden off of the current healthcare system and what it is that we're doing, because we are tapping into private sector resources, doctors, nurses, etc.
In order to facilitate and monitor those qualifying for self-isolation and quarantining, government is looking to roll out electronic monitoring devices. Government consultant for home quarantine, Dr. Adana Grandison, says the measures to help keep check that protocols are indeed being followed and the luxury of being home isn't being abused.
In addition to hoping that persons will do the right thing, we always need to have the redundancy in place. And we are using technological means in the form of a monitoring bracelet, a GPS bracelet, more so an anklet, which would be essentially installed once you're accepted for home quarantine or home isolation, where we would be able to essentially ensure that you stay home, because that is important. We will also have sporadic checks, and this is not something that is unique to Barbados. Australia, Canada, once you enter any of these programs, you would, without any sort of notification, you could be popped in by a medical practitioner to assess you and to ensure that you're actually staying at home. This is essentially an ankle bracelet. It is waterproof. You're not tied to a particular part of the house. You're free to move around within the confines of your home. But essentially what it does, because it uses GPS technology, is that it allows for geofencing. And this geofencing would ensure that you're staying based upon the setup that we have with the contractor that would be monitoring, is to ensure that persons do not go outside of the confines of, or what we would call the curtilage of their home, to ensure that not only they remain safe, but also the wider community remains safe.
An independent investigation commissioned by the World Health Organization has identified more than 80 alleged cases of sexual abuse during the Global Health Agency's response to an Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The 35-page report released yesterday exposed the wide-scale sexual wrongdoing linked to a United Nations institution in years. It was committed by personnel hired locally as well as the members of the international teams in the country from 2018 to 2020.
Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus apologized to the victims and said the report by an independent panel made for harrowing reading. It found there were at least 80 cases of sexual abuse by aid workers during the response to an Ebola outbreak from 2018 to just last year. Separate investigations into sexual abuse allegations have also been launched by two other UN bodies, UNICEF and the International Organization for Migration.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what was done to you by people who were employed by WHO to serve and protect you. I'm sorry for the ongoing suffering that these events must cause. I'm sorry that you have had to relieve them in talking to the Commission about your experiences.
And that's a wrap from me, Pearson. It's now back to you for Morning Barbados.
Thank you, Wendy. It's now 6.5 minutes after 7 o'clock. We're taking a break here, and when we come back, there's much more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Before an emergency, make a plan with your family just in case you're separated. Children should know their full name as well as yours and their home address. Make sure they have the most up-to-date and accurate information. Monitor what they see and read on social media. As you know, this medium can sometimes have misleading information. As a family, we all know which shelter to go to if we are not together. Our important documents are stored in zip-top bags, and we keep them in our grab bags. Take a scan or just take a picture with your mobile device of your documents and email them to yourselves. Our grab bags also have masks, hand sanitizer, snacks for the children, things to keep them occupied, and at least 2 or 3 days worth of clothing. Remember to stay calm and focused on your plans. If you are panicked or anxious, children will be too. Reassure them. Build their confidence. Make sure they understand that it is better when you work together for the safety of the family.
What's for breakfast?
This is a message from Sidima and UNICEF.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Approaching 10 minutes now after 7 o'clock, time for you to win this morning by calling me on 228-5562, 228-5563. You see for yourself, it is time for today's Crumbs question of the day. 228-5562 or 228-5563. There's the question. What is Crispy Fried Chicken's Instagram handle? What is Crispy Fried Chicken's Instagram handle? 228-5562 or 63. I think the younger ones will probably know this better than some of the older ones. But what is Crispy Fried Chicken's Instagram handle? 228-5562 or 228-5563. This should be easy. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Where are you watching us from?
I'm watching from St. Thomas.
St. Thomas. What's your answer for me?
Representing St. Lucia at the same time.
Yes, it's you. I know. I recognize your voice. You better get this right. I want to give this to you, so tell me, what is the answer?
It's Crispy's fried chicken, the BDF.
Say it again from around. Tell me.
Crispy fried chicken, BDF.
Yes! Yes, yes. Early Wall Crawler has just won. Rhonda Hines Graham, congratulations. Sorry. But you're absolutely right. It's Crispy Fried Chicken BDS. That is correct. It is that on Instagram. Have you had a chance to try any of the crispy fried chicken offerings yet?
Not as yet, Pearson. Not as yet. So
You're
this
getting a
probably will
chance
be my
now.
opportunity.
You're getting a chance now, Rons. Indeed,
Yes.
Congratulations. Stay right there on the phone.
Yes,
We'll take
thank
some
you
more
very
information
much.
from you. You're welcome. And we'll be happy to reward Rhonda with her winnings today. She's correct in saying that is it. Crispy fried chicken BDS. You could perhaps go and add them to your Instagram page, if that's the way we say it, and follow them as well on Instagram. So that's it for today's Crumbs question of the day. We're coming back after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Pearson. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm good as well.
Gotta make sure your doctors are safe and sound, you know, you're all right. And if you were not feeling well, just take an aspirin, it'll do you well. All right. We're going to look today at preterm labor, and I'm sure, like me, a lot of people are asking, what is that? So what do you say?
Right. Preterm labor is a very important aspect of pregnancy. It happens in about 10% of pregnancies, and essentially this is whereby the baby comes a bit earlier than expected. In overseas, like UK, is between 24 and 37 completed weeks of pregnancy, whereas in Barbados is between 26 to 28 weeks to 37 weeks of pregnancy. The importance is that if one has a baby on the edge of prematurity, which is around like 26 weeks or so, there is an increase what we call perinatal morbidity and mortality, meaning that there's a chance that the baby might demise, especially if it's quite early. And sometimes there are a lot of issues in terms of counseling the mother to be in relation to the outcome of the pregnancy.
So what causes this preterm labor?
Right, there are a number of risk factors Sometimes it can just happen, so there's no cause. A previous history of preterm delivery increases the chances of a preterm birth, and the more preterm births you have, the probability of your next pregnancy being preterm is actually quite high. Now, sometimes if you have like twins or multiple gestation, the risk of preterm birth or labor is actually increased. And also too, if you have like a medical condition that is severely compromising you, so like for argument's sake, if you have any respiratory compromise that you have to get go to ICU and stuff, sometimes the obstetrician and the anesthetist may have to make a decision to deliver the pregnancy much earlier than normal. And sometimes you can have obstetric emergencies like a rupture of placenta, whereby the afterbirth is sheared off the uterus due to bleeding between the uterus and the placenta, and as a result you have to do either emergency cesarean section, and sometimes this can increase your chances of preterm delivery.
So if she's had multiple pregnancies, if she's had multiple incidences of preterm labor as well, all of those will more so predispose her for cases of that occurring again. So the potential of getting pregnant is probably even greater reduced as a consequence.
Yeah, if for argument's sake a patient had 2 previous preterm births, you can put your money on it that the 3rd pregnancy would be extremely preterm as well. So in these pregnancies, you have to monitor them closely and treat any infections that they may have that might predispose them to further preterm delivery.
Any infection, or if she's abusing drugs.
Yeah. Sometimes if you use like cocaine and stuff, you don't really get that much in Barbados, but if you use like cocaine and other medication like that, you can actually predispose yourself to having preterm deliveries.
So how does someone who is having a problem with preterm labor present? Is it bleeding? What is it, pain? What is it that they present with that cause you to go in to seek out, find out what's going on? Or is it simple loss of the birth?
Right, so essentially a patient would come in complaining of intermittent lower abdominal pain. Sometimes they can complain of some bleeding as well too. So when they're being examined by the doctor, we would examine the abdomen to see if they're contracting. So this would explain why they're getting the lower intermittent abdominal pain. And then also we do a spectrum examination to see if the neck of the womb is open or closed, or if there's blood in the vagina as well. Now, we do a CTG monitoring as well, and this will show us in terms of the status of the fetus, and also to an ultrasound scan to see in terms of like the growth and the fluid around baby. Now, 2 things are added on to this. We would do a transvaginal ultrasound scan to check the length of the cervix, and for argument's sake, if the cervix is long on the first examination, we would re-examine in 4 hours time and do another repeat transvaginal ultrasound to check the length of the cervix to see if it is shortening. Now, if it is shortening, then more than likely the patient is going into preterm labor, and the scan actually removes all the objectivity in relation to using a speculum and averaging it by just looking at it. But if you do an ultrasound scan, you can actually measure the actual cervix itself. In the last 10 years or so, the development is in a test called fetal fibronectin. This is
right there on that big word, right there on the cusp of that big word. So I can't even explain it to you what that big word might possibly be, but we're trying to see if we can resolve that matter, because we'd like to hear a little bit more about preterm labor. And you would have seen and have heard thus far that, you know, if you're presenting with that kind of abdominal pain, some bleeding, check your gynecologist, your obstetrician, to find out a little bit more about what's happening there. You're pregnant and you'd love to be able to carry it to full term. And so you want to be able to fix that. So we want to find out how we can fix it, and so that you bring some calm to your experience of motherhood as you raise this little baby. So let's see if we can connect once again with Dr. Barker, are you there with me again?
Yes, please.
It's the big word that tripped you up. That's what it was. I tell you don't use big words.
You know, technology. Right, so I'm not sure how much got lost, but we use
You're talking about the fetal fibronectin.
Right, so essentially what this is a chemical which is found in the vagina after 34 weeks gestation and is absent before. So when we take the test, so essentially we get some secretions from the neck of the womb, and we actually use this test. If the test is negative, what happens is that the probability of you going into preterm labor is less than 1%. If it is positive, it means that your risk is increase of delivery within 2 weeks. So what we do now is to correlate the transvaginal scan length of the cervical of the cervix with the fibronectin to then give you a probability of delivery. This technique is, or this modality, we use a lot in the UK, depending on which hospital you are in. And this actually determines your management in relation to if you get what we call a tocolytic, which is a drug to actually prevent the uterus from contracting, and also to gives you time to give the baby steroids to.
So I'm sure a lot of ladies watching this one are saying, all right, doctor, but what is the potential for my child to live? I don't want to lose this here. So what do you say?
Right. Now, the issues with this depends on the gestation of the baby. So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right. Oh, okay, right. So if the baby is on the extreme levels of prematurity, you have to have a serious discussion as in relation to the outcomes. So if you have a very preterm delivery, the risk of death is high, the risk of serious disability is high, and this is in over 50% of babies born very premature. So they will have this discussion with the obstetrician, and they will have it with the neonatologist as well, and then we would actually come with a plan specific for that particular patient. So for argument's sake, if you have a baby that is delivered between 24 and 26 weeks, sometimes the risk of severe disability could be in at least 25 to 30% of this subgroup. So these are the conversations that you have to have. Yes, you can save babies at this gestation, but then the question is, of the percentage that are saved, most of them might have a degree of disability due to the prematurity.
That's not easy news for any parent, whether it be the mother or the father, to hear at that particular point. So is there a level of counseling that would obtain? How do you guys as obstetricians aid the mind right through this process?
Yeah, usually, like when I worked in the tertiary level institutions overseas, and what you have to understand is that these institutions deliver 24 weeks, and then they go to the special care baby unit, SCBU, or which would be the equivalent in NICU here. So the conversations are very serious conversations. We have like strict guidelines or pathways that we have to adhere to, and then we have like special booklets whereby the actual discussions and the actual plan for the patient is actually discussed and documented, because you have to realize that at the end of the day, every woman would want their child to be born fit and healthy, and it's a very stressful situation, especially when there's a high degree of uncertainty at this time. And sometimes it is difficult for the professional, but actually everybody involved, because the patient is stressed out and the family, plus the doctor has to try and counsel them properly as to the outcome, be it good or bad. And then everybody has to have a specific understanding or plan of care in relation to if the patient would deliver at say 25, 26 weeks, exactly if you would do everything in your power to try and save the baby. Sometimes at 24 weeks, sometimes you might have to tell the patient, well, if you deliver, there's a high chance the baby might demise, one, because the lungs aren't fully developed. Sometimes it can get different things going on. And actually, it's a long, hard journey from delivery to another 4 to 6 weeks to see exactly what the outcome of the baby would be.
So you've identified the problem, and you might have done this maybe in your office. What's the next stage of treatment? Do you have to admit the mother to the hospital? How do you now begin the treatments of this situation you're faced with?
It all depends on the cause. So more than likely, the patient will be admitted to hospital. Essentially, what we have to rule out is if it's true preterm labor, meaning that the patient would deliver, or if it's threatened preterm labor, whereby the patient is contracting, but as long as you give them analgesia, you give them the medication to stop the actual contractions, then they actually settle. If they actually go on to deliver, then you inform the necessary professionals. On the other hand, sometimes it might not be in your best interest to stop the actual preterm labor. For example, if the membranes have ruptured and the patient has an infection, then it's better to let the labor go on than to try to stop the preterm labor, because this would be detrimental both to mother and fetus. And then also too, sometimes if you have the bleed, which is the abrupture placenta, which is an obstetric emergency, if they are laboring, then you let them labor, but you actually stabilize them first before they deliver. Or sometimes you might have to do an emergency section depending on how the baby and the mother situation is. So there are a lot of different permutations and combinations in relation to managing these patients.
So if one of those permutations is that you can save it, you can stop the preterm labor, would that require then complete bed rest until, as along the way of the pregnancy, until the 40 weeks, for instance, of gestation?
Not really. It all depends. So for argument's sake, if you give the patient the medication to stop the contractions, give them steroids, most of the time that is enough to stop the initial event. Once that has stopped, and for 48 hours, we continue the medication, depending on which protocols you follow. I should say that. Then sometimes the patient may go home after a week or so. Sometimes, depending, they might actually settle and then go home, and then they might come back again, depending on the gestation. So they may come back in preterm labor again, but this time they would have had the steroids and stuff to mature the baby's lungs. So then we want to actually intervene and try to stop it, because the reason why we give the medication and stuff is to improve the outcome by giving steroids. The steroids improve the outcome of the fetus because it matures the lungs.
Having said all of this, how many cases present? Is it a rare occurrence on the island, or is it something that happens pretty often to a lot of women?
Yeah, usually the figures are about 10%. So if I'm going to say if you do 3,500 deliveries, at least 350 people may come in 1 year's time with preterm labor or threatened preterm labor.
All right, so it's something that's a matter for discussion with one's obstetrician gynecologist, certainly as we see the symptoms. So once again, walk through those symptoms for any lady who's pregnant today, so that she's aware of when these things occur, she needs to move fast.
Right, so if you're having intermittent abdominal pain, which is cramping or sticking in nature, actually any abdominal pain that isn't settling with normal Panadol and stuff, I would advise you to check your doctor. If you have any vaginal discharge in relation to like a water-related discharge, or if you have any bleeding, then you should see any medical personnel or report to your obstetrician. So the main things would be increasing abdominal pain, any vaginal discharge, like any bleeding or water. So those are the important signs not to miss.
All right. Dr. Barker, we got to leave it right there as always. Thank you so much for this wealth of information.
No
but I want to encourage fathers as well, don't absent yourself from this experience. You need to be there to support this is a time that a woman feels her femininity being challenged, and certainly us guys, we need to step up to lend our support at that time as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Barker, again for joining us. Thank you. You're welcome. Morning Barbados continues right after this.
Parents are concerned about how to best protect their children from the COVID-19 virus as they head back to school. The Pfizer vaccine is considered a safe option for children ages 12 through 18. Children who are vaccinated are more protected if they are exposed to the virus. Even after children are vaccinated, they still have to wear masks, physical distance, wash their hands, and use hand sanitizer. Consult your family doctor or pediatrician and make the right choice to protect your children and their classmates from COVID-19.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Have you heard of Alexandra's Pilates Cosmetics? Have you ever heard of it? Well, you're going to hear about it now. The person behind the business Alexandra's Cosmetics is Ashley Mears. Ashley Mears, good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, your face is bright and beautiful today. Are you using Alexandra's Pilates Cosmetics?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It looks well nourished, really. So explain to us what it is that you're using so that our viewers get a sense of what they can experience too. You're the living example of it now. What is it that you're using?
Thank you. Well, I really like to use my soap. This is the oats, apple cider vinegar, and lemon. This is great for toning, evening out your complexion. It's also really good for acne. Also, I just launched some face and body lotions that you can try. It really helps with the glow. We have a wide range of products that y'all could check out on the website, the Instagram. Yeah, I see it just came up.
There's a lot. But you're 21 years old and you're now an entrepreneur in the whole beauty, cosmetics, and personal care line. Why that particular area of interest for you?
Well, when I was 16 years old, someone taught me how to make the soap. So that's really how it started. I started out with one single type. This was the charcoal and peppermint, and it was wrapped in like a brown paper. And I would walk around my neighborhood and sell them in a basket. I started walking further in town, and then eventually I set up a little table in town on the bridge under the Independence Arch, and it just took off from there.
Wow, I mean, just the whole mint flavor alone makes you feel like eating it to begin with, but it's not edible, folks. Charcoal and mint, but you've been able to therefore to look at all the properties of the ingredients to understand how they impact the skin and skincare. So the science behind of it, who taught you all of that?
Well, I did a lot of research. That's the best thing I could tell you. I just did a lot of research on the products, and they actually do work because my customers give me great reviews.
Now the whole thing is supposed natural, and the more natural one uses in one clean cleansing regime, the better it is for the skin. So once again, walk me through the range of products that you have that are all natural that most skin types can work with.
Okay, well, we have 4 types of soap available. We got the charcoal and mint. We have oats, apple cider vinegar, and lemon. Neem and moringa, aloe, and cucumber. We have some clay mask. This is actually one of the clay masks. This is the most popular one. This is bentonite clay and apple cider vinegar. It's a detoxing clay mask, and we have 2 other types. I have hair care products too. So I have shampoo, conditioner, moisturizer, and hair oil. And I just launched the lotion. So we have 3 types of lotions available.
Listen, woman, you are one busy woman, Ashley. So where do you find the time at 21 years old when others are at your age are out partying and having a grand old time to do all of this?
Well, I wake up early. I finish late. So when I wake up, I will go to town and get my product prepared. I will go on the bridge and sell them, and then I will go to the supermarket, collect the raw materials, and I'll be making products until late in the night. This is every day I do this. Yeah, you see nuts is actually available in Massey Sunset Crest this weekend. So you will have all of the products there available on the Nuts Caribbean stand.
All right. So we're looking at your online store at the moment, and this we can find on your Instagram page or your website, alexsandrapile.com. And there she is, all fussy with what she's doing. But all of these are so delicious, but also natural coconut flavor as well, which is quite good. What support have you had in developing and building out your business?
Oh, well, last year the trust loan actually helped me with a $5,000 grant. And I was able to invest in packaging in terms of getting the boxes done and getting the clay mask done. So that was really good step for me. And I just kept going. I just kept pushing. I worked with what I have. And
you're pushing so hard that you're able now to export. Now that must really feel wonderful to know that your products are going beyond these shores.
I know, right? I shipped them to Canada, the UK. I just recently shipped them to St. Vincent. Wow. That was my first time shipping to the Caribbean. It's really nice.
So what's been
I have them at over 10 locations.
That's brilliant. What's been the global support? What comments are people making about use of your products?
Well, the people overseas really like them, but I think the shipping rates are just a bit too high.
Yeah.
So we will try to work on getting the shipping lower so that we can export better. Yeah, now, on a bigger scale.
Oh, that's fine. I can't wait for you to blossom into the beautiful things that you're doing and to realize all of your dreams. I'm told you're about to open your own store in a couple of weeks as well.
Yes, please. I'm so excited. Like, imagine being on the bridge for 3.5 years, and I'm finally being able to have my own store.
Wow.
I'm so excited.
So talk to us. Where is it going to be, so that we can all come into your store?
Well, I didn't want to say it too much until everything is finalized. But y'all can stay posted. I'll keep you posted on the social media, on the Instagram, but it will be in Bridgetown.
It will be in Bridgetown. How did it feel though, sitting under the bridge, and people walking past you and thinking, who's this little girl here? And what did your friends think of you going out there, putting yourself out there to do your business? Did they think you were a little bit crazy?
Well, I think I motivate a lot of my friends. That's the truth. They always look up to me. Sometimes the braces get really hard because the sun just be so hot. Imagine doing it religiously every single day.
Yes.
But I just keep pushing myself because I see so much in my future. So I have to put in the work now.
There's a hair oil. I'm looking on the screen right here. Look at the guy in the middle right there, folks. How his hair was getting lighter in the top of his head, and then the use of your hair oil was able to restore it. What's that particular oil?
Yeah. That is herbal hair oil. It's made with virgin olive oil, vitamin E, jojoba, coconut, and herbs like nettle, potai, chamomile, avena, sativa. And it actually works. It's available on my website for only $15. They're going to see $750 US. All of my prices are listed in US, but it's actually 15 Barbados, and delivery is also available.
I'm so hugely proud of it. The packaging is beautiful. The bottles, the tubes that you're using, all of this is really good. You must spend really a lot of time night on night just thinking up of different ways to approach it. How is that?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but like I was pregnant like 2 years ago, and I lost it. So it just pushes me to be better when I become a mother again. So I just keep going.
I'm sorry that I had to awaken that memory for you, but it is good to know that you're took a whole lot off my shoulders, but I'm so glad that you're still so motivated to do what you are doing, and that the next stage is opening your own store. You're shipping across the world, and you're only 21 years old, and that says a lot about you, and it says a lot about your support system as well, because clearly the people who support you have given you the space to blossom in the way that you have. Just out of curiosity, where did you go to school?
I went to Coleridge and Paris.
Hello! Look at how I walked right into that. Listen, you don't tell me. And nobody in our production crew told me this. I'm telling you, I'm hugely proud of you. No wonder you're such an excellent entrepreneur indeed. You went to my school, sister. Did you know that?
That's great.
I'm telling you, I know, and my technical director as well, he too went to school at Coleridge in Paris. So there we go. See, there's excellence that comes from the school on the hill right there. And I think for all of those who would have gone to school with you today, and I want to encourage all of the alumni, so please support Ashley Mears and her business here, Alexandra Pile Cosmetics. Again, let's tell everybody where we can see your product so we can see it and we can purchase online as well. Where can we go?
Just visit my Instagram, Alexandra Pile Cosmetics. You can check out the website, or the online delivery is also available. And I'll still be on the bridge for like the next week or two. But the store will be open soon, so I'll let y'all know where it is within another week.
For sure, you gotta let me know, Coleridge and Paris. We have to support each other. For real. So folks, you can go to Alexandra Pile Cosmetics on Instagram, or you can send her an email. Her contact number is right there at the bottom of your screen. 233-9120, 233-9120, or Alexandra Pile Cosmetics at gmail.com. The website is simple, alexandrapile.com. And let's support this young budding entrepreneur who's doing brilliant things, shipping abroad, opening her new store in a couple of weeks, and just being online and presenting all of his natural beauty, cosmetic and hair care products, skincare products as well. Ashley Mears, thank you for joining us this morning. You have left me with a whole host of inspiration today. I'm sure thousands of people who are watching you as well. I encourage all of them to support you as you do what you're doing so well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so very much. Coleridge and Paris to the world. Indeed. All right. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 15 minutes now to go to the hour. When we come back, folks, we're heading to the finish line, but we're going to be crafting our game changer. Get your books, 12 keys to a strong finish. That's our focus after the break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
So for the next 13 minutes, we are going to conclude all of this, folks. We have gone through 12 keys to a strong finish. We live this life, one life we live, and it's fraught with challenges, but it's also brilliant on successes as well. And all that you require is within you, and all that would help to remind you would be within this book. 12 keys to a strong finish, life lessons for facing your everyday challenges, and there are many. And so we've come to that point now where we want to look at, you know, charting our game changer. And joining us to talk about that is our boy, Mornin Husbands. Good morning, Bishop Mornin Husbands.
Good morning, my friend. Listen, I was just there enjoying Ashley's interview.
Me too.
Alexandra Pile. I have to go search for that little shop when it opens, and yes. I really wish her well. I am thoroughly inspired. Her face alone, Pearson, would make you buy a soap.
You're so right. And she has some hair oil.
I tell you, wonder. I am so. It's just an indication of what our youth are capable of in Barbados.
You're absolutely right on that score. I join you on that. My friend, we've gone through so much, you know, together. And people are going through so much, sometimes alone, but they should be reminded that there are things that they can do to have a strong finish, not to be challenged by life's lessons, but to learn from life's lessons and face them to have that very strong finish. So we've come now, having gone through it all, and we've done the knockout punch last week, but going forward, we have to be different. So we have to chart a game changer. So let's walk through this one now. So where do we start with this?
I am feeling a little sentimental and emotional this morning.
Imagine me.
Not only because today's the last, but because when you really look at it, and when I think about the progress, the 1, 2, 3 approach to the collective approach to this book, I marvel, because here it is, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I tell you, a pandemic that is seemingly going nowhere soon, and so crafting the game changer is really about the mental application and energy which carves itself out in our physical and practical ways. So when you're talking about you're crafting your game changer, you're looking at mental application and energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you face it, but you apply your mental energy, you apply it. And so sometimes we are lost because we look around ourselves and we see other things happening, and we begin to question who we are within the context of everything, and we lose sight of the finish line. And you say here, therefore, do not minimize your contribution because of who else is running the race, and who else is not necessarily a person, but what else is in this race of life of yours as well. And how do you stay focused so that you don't allow the distractions all around?
Yeah, staying focused is built around the narratives you paint for yourself. And just like last week, we were talking about the narrative of COVID, and you just have to change the narrative. Mm-hmm. And even on the heels of my saying that, there are about 4 or 5 countries who have already decided, look, COVID is here to stay. We have to live with it. They remove all, it may sound crazy, but they remove all the restrictions, remove the wearing of masks and so on, because they realize that a minimal amount of people are being adversely affected by it. So what they're going to do is to concentrate their emergency effort, their health efforts around the emergency cases mainly, and provide enough inspiration, information, and tools for the residents to really manage in terms of building their immunity and so on. So the reality is, we have to shift the narrative, and Pearson, you know, we spoke about that last week. Mm-hmm. You have to shift the narrative, and that's why I talk about crafting a game changer. It has to do with your mental energy, your mental prowess, your mental application. And so until people begin to think differently about their picture, then they're going to continue to get the same results.
You talk a lot about the sprinter in this particular part of the book, you know, and we've seen images of racing on, or whether it's on social media or on TV, where a runner trips and falls, cuts the knee, but gets up and keeps going, just keeps going. Because sometimes you meet a setback, but you have to finish this particular race. And so you talk a little bit about that despite the setbacks, you get up and you continue the sprint. You find it within you, you find a determination to finish.
Yeah, because as I was reading, I was also thinking about my experiences at races.
Mhm.
And one of the things I've noticed is that, listen, the crowds go crazy when an athlete stumbles, falls.
Yes.
The race is finished, but that athlete gets back up and continues to give his best. You see the crowd go wild.
Yes,
And
yes.
that was the imagery that played out in my mind when I was writing this part of the book. That, you know, a setback does not mean that you cannot finish strong, because finishing strong does not always mean winning the
Mhm.
race, but
Mhm.
winning with your attitude, winning with your mental application. And it takes a lot, because you have to go through embarrassment when you fall.
Mhm.
You
Yes,
have to
you're
go
right.
through
You're right.
embarrassment. But the crowd shares that embarrassment, eliminates it for you by hailing you on.
Mhm.
And so another thing that comes into view are the supporters,
Of course. Of course. But you
the
know,
people in your network.
you must be conscious of the type of finish you want to have as well. You know, that you want to finish. It doesn't matter at that point. Once you tripped and fell, that so many others have gone ahead of you. That's not important. What's important is that you finish. You're not trying to break the
finish.
record. You're not trying to get the medal. Your intent to finish, because you started something
to
that
finish.
is worthwhile finishing.
Pearson, that's it right there. It is not about finishing. It is not about finishing first. It's about finishing strong. So
Yes.
even though you are not first in the race, even though you're not third in the race, the important thing is that you have given the race your all. And that's what we're trying to get over to readers, to viewers. Once you know that you have done your best, you have every right to feel proud.
And all of these folks you will find within that book on your screen right there. 12 keys to a strong finish, life lessons for facing your everyday challenges. And so we acknowledge that we need to shift. And in shifting things, we have to start doing things differently. You got to start. If you're going to make the change, we have to start doing things differently. And you begun to list a number of them in the book as well. You said one of them is to start speaking differently. Start associating differently. Start thinking differently. And all of those things will require a little bit of work. But these are things that we need to do if we want to finish. And not just link to the finish line.
And it goes back to where we started, the mental application and energy. You have to speak to yourself. You know, David spoke to himself when his soul was feeling low. He said, "Why art thou cast down, O my soul? Why art thou disquieted within me? Hope thou in God." And sometimes we have to speak to ourselves, look in the mirror, speak to our circumstance, encourage ourselves in the Lord, and also leverage the relationships we have around us. The one thing I want to encourage viewers not to do when you're speaking to yourself is answer back, because answering back sends a different message. But you have to speak to
But you're
yourself.
right. But you're
you gotta
right.
speak to yourself.
You know, every morning, one of the things I do is talk to myself on my way to work. I talk. And I mean literally use words and verbalize it. I talk.
And I know our listeners are getting this. One morning I got up feeling so low, and I was sharing this with a church quite recently. One morning I got up feeling so low. But then I remember the things I've written. I remember the things I read. And so I spoke to myself. I said, "Marlon, you're going to have a great day today." Pearson, by the time I got to Collimarock, going down to my office in Country Road, it was amazing. The kind of feeling that came over me. You can speak into your day. Speak into your day. As a matter of fact, the Bible speaks about speaking into your day. When you get up early in the morning, speak into your day. What you want to see in your day, speak into your day. And I want to say to viewers this morning, and those who would read the book and buy the book, I'm saying, whatever challenge you're faced with, look at what you want to see and speak it. In the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen on that. Start associating differently. Consider who you hang out with, who you have around you. Nehemiah proved that to you. If you read the chapters and the books very carefully, you will see he was conscious of the people and the company he kept. And he began to think differently as well, because you can have that defeatist attitude, but sometimes that's not the attitude that you need to have. Think differently. I'm trying to go through it here because there's so much more to go. But most of all, be committed to the cause. Be committed to the outcome. And in being committed, commit to growing, commit to serving, commit to doing Christianity differently. And we see the word differently all the time because we cannot keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome. We have to start doing things differently.
Correct.
And that's the whole point in all of
Correct.
this. So if we're heading for that strong finish, because we're heading for the finish line ourselves here now, we need to start doing different things differently. We need to craft a game changer, folks. That's how we're going to reach that strong finish. It starts with us mentally, consciously determining that's what we're going to do from today on.
Correct.
You
Correct.
know, Marlon, go ahead.
And I want to say that commit to commit to serving, commit to growing. I want to finish with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Commit to growing.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we grow? We grow by our associations, we grow by reading, we grow by listening to news, we grow so many different ways. Most of all, we grow by plugging into the Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
When you plug into God, the things that ordinarily would threaten to shake your system will not, because you're going to place yourself under the protective arm of God. And I want to say this while we manage this COVID pandemic, plug into God, grow, commit yourself to growing in God, growing with other friends, growing with associations, and so on.
You know, that's the conversation I was having with a colleague just yesterday. Look at how you came and reaffirmed it for me this morning. Same thing. So folks, you know, get the book, get cracking, get crafting that game changer, get onto those 12 keys to a strong finish, live the life, your best life, face those challenges head on and live your best life. The book is available by a phone call, simple phone call, 232-3961, 232-3961, or call the office where Marlon works at 431-0016. He's with Sanctuary Empowerment Center to do some fantastic work online as well. You can follow the services there too, and his constant because I sit and I watch them, I know, so don't think I don't. I do watch them as well. But we want to encourage you to get them out. Get them out, 232-3961. Because the last one you did was with my buddy Anthony Green, so you know I had to really sit and watch that one as well. Marlon?
Correct, the interview.
Yeah, this has been quite a journey. I want to thank you. Please write again, write some more, so we can have even more interactions. And, you know, give me a call and we can discuss how we can go from here.
Actually, Pearson, I'm by next year, I'm bringing out something called the Confidence Book, and I'm looking forward to that. The Confidence Book, a very little one, a guide for every day, a spur in your day. We will talk more about that.
You bet we shall. Thank you, my brother. Thank you so very much as always. Folks, that's it for today. Thank you too for keeping us company. It be God's will. We'll be back here again tomorrow morning. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.